Hey friend, I want to tell you about the drive home from an appointment where a doctor had told me that everything looked normal even though I did not feel well. Not the appointment itself, but the drive home, because those 15 minutes in the car were harder than the whole appointment put together. And today I want to talk about what to do when you are waiting on an answer that might not actually be coming anytime soon, and why you do not actually have to wait for an answer of what's going on with you to start feeling more like yourself again. Let's get into it.
Welcome to Chronic Illness Moms. If you're more than just a tired mom, I'm talking trying to make it through the day without crashing by noon while raising neurodivergent kids, you're not alone. I'm Ashley, a wife, mom, and certified health coach. I have lived with autoimmune disease and flare-ups that made everyday life feel harder than it should. After years of pushing through and burning out, I learned how much stress, poor sleep, and nervous system overload were driving my symptoms. Everything changed when I started building small, realistic habits that actually supported my body instead of fighting it. In this podcast, you'll learn simple habits that help you to feel better. So pop in your earbuds and take a break from the chaos. It's you time.
Before we get into today's episode, I want to tell you something. I remember being in the middle of managing my own chronic symptoms and deciding that I was going to push through a workout program anyway. I had a goal and I showed up and I felt really proud of myself. Right up until a few hours later when I crashed so hard that I thought I was getting the flu. And I kept wondering, what is wrong with me? Because I was doing the thing that I was supposed to be doing. That season is actually what led me to build my Feel Better coaching the way that I did. Because the usual advice that we get assumes that our body is going to bounce back from whatever normal schedule or habit that you have, and mine has just never worked that way. It is a 1-hour call where we do a lifestyle audit together, figure out 1 or 2 habit gaps that are draining you the most, and then build you one clear, doable next step. This is not a protocol or a list. It is just one thing that actually moves the needle for your body and your life. You can book right now at ashleybraden.com/coaching. Okay, let me take you back to that day because I remember more of it, honestly, than I would like to. I had gone in, just feeling oh my goodness, like I've got to do something. I need to change something. And I just wanted to figure it out. I was just tired in this very heavy sink to the floor kind of way that I felt like no amount of rest or sleep was really touching. My joints hurt so bad for reasons that I couldn't understand. I would walk into a room and forget why I was standing there. And really underneath all of that, I had this small, hopeful feeling going into the appointment because I thought, I don't want to be sick. So maybe I can go here and get an explanation. I wanted a name for what was going on, so I would at least know what I was fighting. And I remember the doctor came in and said, "Oh yeah, everything looks good. Your blood work is fine." And I was thinking, okay, yeah, thank you. This is supposed to be good news that I'm supposed to be relieved about. But as I got dressed and walked to my car, I remember sitting there thinking, okay, if everything is normal, everything checks out, then what is going on with me? Why do I feel so bad all of the time? Am I making this up? Am I somehow just failing as a person? And I want to ask you something. Have you ever had this moment? Maybe not in a car. Maybe it was standing in your kitchen after you hung up with a nurse when they called you and told you about your lab results. Or maybe it was reading a portal message that said, "Oh, everything is normal. You're good to go." That specific kind of moment where, you brace yourself for an answer and instead you get nothing. It's not bad news. It's not really good news either because you were looking for answers and you didn't get it. If you have lived that moment, I think you already know why I wanted to talk to you about this today. Here is what I really have come to believe. And I feel like, about all these moments that are similar to this, like those of you that have experienced moments that are similar to this, or you're living it right now. Let's talk about why normal results do not mean that everything is normal for you, that nothing is happening, and why yes, a diagnosis as far as being able to understand what is going on with your body, it is very helpful, but it doesn't have to be the actual fix that so many of us think it is, and why sometimes waiting on an answer keeps you stuck in a place that you don't have to stay in. Okay, I just want to push gently a little bit on the idea that normal labs mean nothing is wrong. I experienced infertility for 5 years. I was tested for all kinds of stuff, was told that my labs were all normal, and eventually, years later, discovered I had a thyroid disease that people just did not run the appropriate lab test for. So, sometimes we hear, oh, everything is normal. But my question is always, is it normal or is it optimal? Even when looking at my hormones and stuff, I work with a practitioner who we get my levels, including my thyroid, to an optimal level, not just to normal. And the thing is, with standard testing, it's built to catch like very specific known things. So a certain marker that's outside of a certain range, a virus, a deficiency, it is not meant to measure the full weight of your nervous system that's been going on this chronic state of stress for years and years and years. It is not built to measure how depleted your body feels after a season of managing your own symptoms on top of managing everything else in your household. So when your labs come back normal, what that could mean is that they didn't find the specific thing on their list for that day, but it doesn't mean that there isn't something going on with your body. It doesn't mean that there is nothing there. It just means that the testing that they showed within normal range, but 1, is that optimal? And 2, do we test the right things? So if you've ever sat with a normal test result and felt almost betrayed by your own body, like, okay, I should have proof of what I know I've been experiencing. I want you to hear this. You are not making it up. Your experience is real information, even if a test was not designed to capture what is going on in your body. For those of us who are also caregiving and taking care of kids, especially a child who is neurodivergent, this can land even harder because we are already used to people not seeing the full weight of the load and really the responsibility that we carry. And getting a normal test result when you were really hoping for answers on top of that can feel like, oh my goodness, one more person is not seeing the full picture of what is going on. Like, this is another person. It just feels so discouraging. Okay, so the other thing I want to talk about, and I think this can sometimes be surprising for people, is, for the moms like myself who have gotten an official diagnosis, a name for what's going on, a lot of them, and I've experienced this, we all experience the same thing. You still feel like you're doing everything right and you're still not seeing progress. Now, I obviously have gotten to the point where I am at a much better place now, but I do remember feeling that way, like, whoa, what is going on? Why do I feel like I'm doing all this stuff and I'm not seeing the progress that I want to see? And so a diagnosis, it gives you a word. It does also give you a little bit of a picture of what are some specific targeted things that I need to focus on, but it doesn't necessarily automatically hand you this full explanation of why your body is responding the way it does. And it also does not come with like this guaranteed plan that do A, B, and C and everything will be fixed. Some women, they've waited years for a diagnosis. Then they finally got one. And then they just kind of sit there thinking, okay, now what? The relief of finally feeling like you're validated in your symptoms, like, okay, this is real. And now I have a name for it. That is a lot, and I don't want to take that away from anyone. But I think that so many of us have built up this idea that a diagnosis is going to be the finish line, and then once we cross it, everything's going to get figured out from there. And sometimes that is true, and a lot of times I would say, actually, that's not necessarily how it plays out. So, I like to think about this, a name for something tells you what to call it, right? It does not automatically tell you how to live with it, how to manage it on a Tuesday when your kid has 3 therapy appointments and you haven't slept, or how to explain it to people who don't understand. That part is still yours to figure out, to discover. And, a diagnosis, yes, it can be a relief. It can help you to have a little bit better picture of and understanding of what's going on with your body, but it is not an automatic fix. And it was never meant to be like the whole thing the whole way that we take care of ourselves, I guess I should say. And this is the point that I really, really want to hopefully I hope it lands with you today and it really hits home. One thing to think about is while you are waiting on the next test or the next specialist or the next appointment that might finally explain things, guess what? Your life is still happening. Your kids still need you today. Your body still needs support today. And here's what I have noticed both in my own life and other moms that I have experienced or talked to. The thing that actually helps you feel more like yourself, supporting your own nervous system, getting real rest, eating in a way that supports your body instead of working against it, getting in gentle movement. These things are going to work whether or not you have a diagnosis for what is going on. You don't need that diagnosis to give yourself permission to start there. And I know it can feel a little weird to hear this because we are trained to think, first I have to figure out what is wrong and then I'll know how to fix it. But so much of what actually helps us to see progress in how we feel every day, day to day, it doesn't require things to go in that order. It doesn't require you to say, I have to understand why before I can come up with a solution. And sometimes waiting for like the paperwork or the specialist or the testing to catch up to your body, it's a really long time. You know, I will give you the example of my thyroid. The first doctor I went to only checked my TSH. I've had an episode before on thyroid and the different tests that you can get. And it would have been probably another 4 or 5 years before my TSH would have reflected that I had Hashimoto's thyroiditis. And so that's why I say, you know, sometimes it takes time for your body and the labs to show that it's no longer normal. So what can we do in the meantime? How can we care for ourselves in that in-between time? And instead of chasing a diagnosis, what can we do to care for ourselves today? Now, again, I'm not at all anti-doctor. I'm not about you not trying to figure out what is going on. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is instead of getting so wrapped up and focused on, I have to figure out why, what if instead you said, what can I do for myself today to take care of myself? And yeah, hopefully I can still figure out why. But the reality is you don't need a piece of paper or a diagnosis to give you permission to start doing things that are going to help you to feel more like yourself. So what does that look like? What does saying, yes, I would love to get answers, and we all want answers and there's nothing wrong with that, but here's the reality of where I'm at and I'm going to do something to help myself in the meantime. How do we walk that out? How do we live that every single day? What if you just pick one thing that you already suspect would help your body, something that you have probably been putting off until you get, real answers, or it's just like, I just want to wait, or I just don't want to do it yet. Maybe it's finally going to bed 20 minutes earlier. Maybe it is eating something before you have your coffee in the morning. Maybe it is prioritizing protein, or simply saying out loud to yourself in the car or the bathroom mirror or wherever you get your 5 minutes alone, I don't need a diagnosis to be allowed to rest today. I don't need a diagnosis to know that the symptoms I have are real and that I'm going to take care of and love my body. It's the only body I have. God gave it to me and I'm going to take care of it. Whatever the thing for you is, food, water, sleep, managing stress, sorting through your emotions, focusing on that one thing without waiting for permission from a test result before you do it. And let me tell you what this could look like just in real time. It's a Wednesday night. Your kids are finally in bed. And instead of scrolling through your phone or Googling symptoms or all kinds of things to try to figure out what's going on, you go to bed 20 minutes earlier than you planned to. No one told you had to do it. It wasn't a diagnosis or a protocol that you felt like you had to follow. You just decided your body was worth the extra 20 minutes of rest, whether you had answers or a diagnosis or not. And if this episode landed for you today and you've been living in that in-between space of just not having real answers, not feeling like yourself, I would love for you to come tell me about it inside our free Facebook community. I will have that linked down in the show notes below. And just share with us one thing that you are going to try this week without waiting for an official answer first. I would love to see what it is that you are working on. All right, friend, that is all for today, and I'll see you back next time.
Hey friend, I hope you found today's episode helpful. If you did, would you take a minute to share it with another mom who's struggling with chronic symptoms? And leave a review on Apple Podcasts. It means the world to me to know this podcast is making a difference for you. All right, it's time for me to go tackle those snack requests, and remember that a short walk, even if the kids turn it into a race, still counts as self-care. Keep chasing those little wins. Even when it feels messy, you're making progress. The information shared in this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult your healthcare provider before making any changes to your health routine. I'm not a doctor, and this podcast is not intended to treat or diagnose any condition. You're the expert on your body. Listen to it and reach out to a trusted provider for support.